Listen carefully. If you still start your mornings repeating what you want to become, you're already at a disadvantage. If you still hang your hopes on nicely written goals, you've surrendered control. And no one told you this directly because illusions are comfortable and comfort is profitable for those who run the game. The truth is colder. Goals are not weapons. They are sedatives. They keep you calm while someone else moves the pieces. You were taught that life is a checklist, targets, steps, deadlines, results. But reality doesn't respect lists. Reality respects force, position, and the will to dominate context. Niccolò Machiavelli did not live his life chasing nicely phrased desires. He did not write 5-year plans. He did not ask the universe for signs. He looked at the world as a field of forces, and he understood something modern people refuse to accept. Men deceive themselves by imagining things will go as they wish, not as they truly are. When you live for goals, you live inside a projection. When you live for power, you live in the real. A goal says, I want to get there. Power says, I will arrange things so that outcomes must pass through me. Feel the difference? One is hope, the other is control. Most people are addicted to anticipation. They feed on the promise of the future. They tell themselves that one day they'll be disciplined, respected, wealthy, confident, that one day is their drug. Meanwhile, reality consumes them slowly. Machiavelli would call this strategic weakness, not because desires are wrong, but because desires without positioning are irrelevant. You can desire power your entire life. If you're not where decisions are made, you don't exist. You can desire money. If you're not in the flow of capital, you're a spectator. You can desire influence. If you don't understand human psychology, you're speaking alone. Goals create the illusion of movement. Power creates real movement. And there's a reason your mind prefers goals. They're emotional, comforting. They give you the sensation of progress without the cost of transformation. You write what you want, you visualize, you talk about it, and your brain rewards you chemically, as if you already achieved something. Refined self-sabotage. Machiavelli had no patience for fantasies like that. For him, the world was ruled by two forces, virtù and fortuna. Fortuna, chaos, change, unexpected blows. Virtù, the cold capacity to shape circumstances through skill, force, and decision. Goals make you dependent on fortuna. Method turns you into virtù. When your identity depends on a future result, you become fragile. If you achieve it, temporary euphoria. If you fail, collapse. In both cases, you're not in control. Your reaction. The strategist does not react. The strategist configures. Instead of asking, what do I want to achieve? He asks, where must I stand so outcomes become inevitable? That's the difference between a hunter and a gambler. The hunter doesn't hope prey appears. He studies terrain, understands patterns, controls timing. The gambler has goals. The hunter has position. And position changes everything. When you're positioned correctly, you don't chase opportunities. Opportunities intersect you. You don't promote yourself loudly. Your influence becomes evident. You don't beg for recognition. Your presence imposes it. That's silent power. But to get there, you must give up something you like, the fantasy of progress. It feels good to say, I'm working on myself. It feels good to announce plans. It feels good to be seen as ambitious. But Machiavelli warned, men judge more by the eye than by the hand. If you expose your intentions, you become predictable. Predictability is vulnerability. Whoever declares targets exposes trajectory. Whoever hides method controls the game. Silence is not modesty, it's energetic strategy. Talking consumes power. Execution builds it. There is force in knowing and not saying. A tension that shifts social dynamics. People sense when someone operates on a level they can't read, and they become attentive, respectful, cautious. That's authority that doesn't seek validation. The goal seeks applause. The method seeks contextual dominance. And here, most people break. Because the method is cold, solitary, without social dopamine. You don't get likes for invisible discipline. You don't get validation for strategic silence. You don't get recognition for calculated patience. You get power. And power isn't loud, it's structural. Let me ask something uncomfortable. If you lose everything tomorrow, status, money, stability, do you still know who you are? Or is your identity tied to goals that haven't happened yet? If your meaning depends on a future outcome, you're easy to destroy. The strategist doesn't attach identity to results. He attaches it to capability, the ability to analyze, to decide, to endure pressure, to act without guarantees. That cannot be taken. Machiavelli was exiled, humiliated, removed from power. He didn't repeat his goals. He didn't cling to hope. He wrote. He turned marginalization into eternal influence. Princes rise and fall. Well-placed ideas dominate centuries. He didn't chase a target. He built an intellectual position impossible to ignore. That's the difference between ambition and power architecture. Ambition runs. Architecture remains. Micro hook. Stay with me, because in a few minutes you'll understand why deleting goals doesn't make you passive. It makes you dangerously efficient in a world addicted to shallow motivation. Most people are emotionally motivated. Excitement, frustration, momentary inspiration. These are unstable states. The strategist operates from necessity, not motivation. Not, I feel like it, not, I'm inspired. But it is necessary. Necessity eliminates internal negotiation. When something is necessary, you don't debate, you execute. This is where real self-mastery begins. Not excessive softness, not unlimited self-compassion, but inner authority. Machiavelli asked a famous question. Is it better to be loved or feared? His answer was pragmatic. Ideally, both. If forced to choose, it is safer to be feared. Apply that internally. If you love yourself without standards, you sabotage yourself. If you respect yourself through firm discipline, you build yourself. You must become an authority to yourself. Rules must exist. Consequences. Order. Another uncomfortable question. Do you control your impulses, or do they control you? Can you control what you consume, what you say, how you react? If not, you're not talking about success, you're talking about wishes. Power begins with internal sovereignty. A ruler who cannot control his inner territory cannot dominate anything external. That's why goals are superficial. They treat symptoms. Method treats structure. Not, I want to lose weight, but I install bodily sovereignty. Not, I want success, but I position myself in nodes of influence. Not, I want discipline, but I impose internal law. When law exists, results become natural consequences. No drama, no motivational theater, no fragile identity, just execution. And repeated execution changes your psychological status. You no longer look like you're chasing life. you look like life has to negotiate with you. That's the real power shift, and it's invisible to those still writing wish lists. If this begins to make you uncomfortable, that's a good sign. Old mechanisms are cracking. Don't rush to fix them. Let them fall. Because next we build the cold alternative. Not goals, but a system of contextual dominance. Good. Then breathe slower and look closer. From this point, we're no longer talking about ambition. We're talking about power engineering. Goals are outcome-oriented. Systems are control-oriented. Outcomes are fragile. Control scales. When you live for a result, every obstacle feels personal. Every delay becomes frustration. Every failure feels like a judgment of your worth. But when you operate through system, obstacles become information. Delay becomes recalibration. Failure becomes trajectory adjustment. No drama, no existential crisis, no theater of unnecessary suffering. The strategist doesn't ask, "Why is this happening to me?" The strategist asks, "How do I use this?" Here, most people fracture because their emotions want meaning, fairness, comfort. Reality offers none of those. Reality offers raw material, and the powerful shape it. Think of your life as unstable territory, volatile relationships, fluctuating markets, unpredictable people, shifting political context, technology rewriting rules overnight, and you want to navigate that with a wish list? That's like trying to wage war with a motivational poster. No, you need structure. First element, invisible positioning. Not where you want to arrive, but where you choose to stand. The world is full of influence nodes, places where information moves first, where decisions are born, where resources are redistributed. Most people stay on the periphery hoping to be noticed. The strategist infiltrates the center. He doesn't seek attention. He seeks access. Access to key people, access to raw information, access to mechanisms behind the curtain. When you have access, you don't chase opportunities. You see them before they exist publicly. A goal says, "I want success." Positioning says, "I stand where success is generated." Different mental architecture. Second element, leverage. Weak people use direct force, work more, push harder, burn out. Leverage multiplies effect without multiplying effort. Social influence, technology, reputation, capital, alliances, each extends your will. If everything depends on your daily energy, you're vulnerable. Fatigue ruins you. Illness stops you. Failure demoralizes you. But if systems work for you, you keep advancing even in silence. Real power is asynchronous. You don't need to be present to produce effect. Leaders understand this. Performers don't. Performers impress. Leaders configure. Configuration demands cold patience. Third element, strategic adaptability. Rigidity feels psychologically safe. It gives illusion of stability. But in dynamic environments, rigidity is slow death. The strategist changes form without losing essence. If the door is closed, he doesn't dramatize. He finds another entry. If none exists, he creates context for one. He doesn't confuse the plan with reality. The plan is a hypothesis. Reality is terrain. Those attached to plans break. Those attached to higher objective. Power, autonomy, control, adapt. That's why deleting goals is liberating. You're no longer tied to one trajectory. You become fluid, dangerously fluid. Then a subtle shift happens. You stop reacting emotionally to change. You evaluate it tactically. Fired, not tragedy. Repositioning, rejected, not humiliation. Useful social filter. Lost money, not panic. Structural financial lesson, same reality, different interpretation system. Power doesn't come from controlling events, but from controlling their meaning. Control meaning leads to control reaction. Control reaction leads to control action. Control action leads to control direction. Most people are emotional puppets. Instant reactions, revenge, validation, comfort. The strategist allows a rare luxury: pause. In that pause, dominance is born. Impulse is predictable. Calculation is intimidating. When you don't react, you destabilize dynamics. People can't read you. What they can't read, they can't control. Psychological advantage. And psychological advantage precedes external victory. But there's a price: decisional solitude. When you stop seeking approval, stop announcing every move, stop asking validation, you become hard to understand. Some will call you cold, distant, arrogant, irrelevant. Popularity is volatile, position is durable. Choose to be liked and you negotiate from weakness. Choose to be respected and not all will applaud. Mature power doesn't seek consensus, it seeks efficiency. Efficiency requires internal clarity: what you tolerate, what you don't, where you invest energy, where you refuse to waste it. No guilt, no long justifications, no need to be understood by everyone. When you know who you are strategically, you stop negotiating with others' emotional chaos. You manage it. That's calm dominance. Rare, very rare. That's why it attracts, intimidates, works, micro hook. And now you'll see why most people sabotage their power exactly when they think they're progressing. They confuse activity with advancement. Busy doesn't mean advancing. Visible doesn't mean valuable. Motivated doesn't mean dangerous. Real progress is silent, structured, measured in accumulated influence, not effort spent. Ask honestly, does what you do daily increase position, leverage, freedom of movement, or just fill time and calm anxiety? Many build comfortable prisons, routines without strategy, goals without infrastructure, work without power direction, looks productive, feels productive, changes nothing essential. The strategist seeks inflection points, small actions with disproportionate impact, right relationship, rare skill, environmental shift, strategic conversation, precise strikes, not constant agitation. That's economy of force. Operate like this and your presence changes. No more rush, no more neediness, no more validation hunger. You emit control. Control is magnetic. People sense when someone isn't pressured by time, opinions, or fear, and they treat them differently. Not through goals, through inner structure, quiet discipline, cold clarity, firm standards. If something still resists deleting goals, it's not reason, it's emotional attachment to illusion. Illusion that future will save you. That desire is enough. That hope is strategy. It's not. Strategy is cold, exact, unforgiving, and incredibly effective. Now we enter the zone most people avoid, because this isn't about techniques, it's about stripping personal illusions. You say you want control. How much of your life is automatic reaction? How much behavior is triggered by others? A message, a criticism, a comparison, a rejection. Emotion takes command instantly. Anger, shame, need for validation, need to prove. You're not leading then, you're being led. Machiavelli understood what modern psychology confirms. Whoever controls your emotions controls your decisions. Whoever controls your decisions controls your destiny. Real power doesn't start outside. It starts in the silence between stimulus and response. Most can't tolerate that silence. Feels like loss of control, vulnerability, passivity. Opposite is true. That's where authority returns. When you don't react immediately, you create uncertainty. Uncertainty destabilizes others' game. Destabilization creates advantage. Impulse is predictable. Restraint is intimidating. Dangerous people seem calm, not because they don't feel, but because they choose when to feel. Emotion versus instrument. Uncontrolled emotion leaks power. Directed emotion fuels tactics. Here enters rare discipline, strategic neutrality. No excessive excitement when things go well, no collapse when they go badly. Stable, observant, calculating. Emotional extremes make you manipulable. Euphoria leads to imprudence. Desperation leads to negotiable weakness. The strategist avoids both, prefers cold lucidity. Machiavelli wrote that a wise ruler must avoid sentimental traps that make him predictable, not because emotions are wrong, but because adversaries exploit them mercilessly. Ask honestly, how easily can people push your buttons? How fast do you react to provocation? How often do you need to explain, defend, prove? Each impulsive reaction surrenders psychological territory. Psychological territory precedes real territory. Power isn't dominating conversations, it's dominating their rhythm. Control rhythm leads to control tension. Control tension leads to control perception. Control perception leads to control outcome. Silence is weapon. Pause is strategy. Calm gaze is message, not theater. Status signal. Calm signals competence. Stability signals authority. Restraint signals confidence. Agitation signals insecurity. Reactivity signals lack of control. Needing the last word signals fragility. If you want power, eliminate leaks. Fewer explanations, fewer justifications, fewer promises, more execution, more observation, more precision. Perception shifts. Perception shapes social reality. Deeper still, deleting goals isn't directionless. It replaces desire with internal command. Goal, I hope to arrive. Command, I align and execute. Alignment means coherence between what you say, what you do, what you tolerate, what you refuse. Most are fragmented, values not reflected in action. Standards collapse under pressure. Discipline depends on mood. That's not identity, that's improvisation. The strategist builds an internal constitution, clear rules, firm limits, real consequences, no negotiation with weak self. Autonomy without discipline becomes chaos. Discipline without autonomy becomes prison. Together, sovereignty. Personal sovereignty is ultimate freedom, not doing what you feel like, doing what serves long-term position. That's strategic maturity. A different calm emerges, not comfort calm, control calm, no chasing confirmation, no external direction seeking, no emotional reactivity. You become a center of gravity. People relate differently. Context treats you differently. Opportunities align differently because your energy isn't scattered, it's concentrated. Concentration intimidates. In a distracted world, clarity looks superhuman, but it's built through renunciation, selection, cutting excess, fewer declared desires, fewer exposed plans, fewer useless reactions, more presence, more structure, more silent intention. That's the difference between seeming ambitious and becoming inevitable. Inevitability doesn't shout, doesn't boast, doesn't seek attention. It installs itself slowly until impossible to ignore. And when you reach that point, goals are unnecessary. You don't chase isolated outcomes. You build positions from which outcomes flow naturally. Power, influence, resources, respect, not trophies, side effects. This is strategic maturity few reach, not because it's complex, but because it demands abandoning comforting self-stories. Admit where you're weak, predictable, manipulated, correct without drama, cold, methodical, consistent. If you're still here, you feel the frame shift. You're not listening for motivation, you're listening for calibration. Not seeking inspiration, seeking clarity. You're no longer spectator of your life. You've stepped into architect role. Architects don't dream buildings, they design them, support them, raise them in silence. That's real power. No noise, no spectacle, no declared goals, just structure becoming destiny. If this perspective reset how you see the game, show it simply, hit like, not for validation, but as a signal you understand the value of quiet things that actually work. And if you want to keep learning how influence is built without spectacle, subscribe, not for content, but for the advantage clarity gives in a world of confusion. See you soon.